Hello, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I am so excited that this week our special guest is the one and only Lynne Twist, one of my favorite humans in the whole world. Lynne, I'm so thrilled to have you here with us.
Thank you, Sage. I'm thrilled to be here.
Oh my gosh. So Lynne has a new book coming out. And if you don't know Lynne, I pretty much always cry when I introduce Lynne because for more than 40 years, Lynne has been a recognized global visionary committed to alleviating poverty, ending world hunger, and supporting social justice and environmental sustainability, all issues that are very close to the hearts of conscious women entrepreneurs like all of you. Lynne has found a way to be an incredible entrepreneur and an incredible philanthropist. And I know many of you want that, from working with Mother Teresa in Calcutta to the refugee camps in Ethiopia and the threatened rainforests of the Amazon, as well as guiding the philanthropy of some of the world's wealthiest families. Lynne's on the ground work has brought her a deep understanding of people's relationship with money, and her breadth of knowledge and experience has led her to profound insights about the social tapestry of the world and the historical landscape of the times that we are in. And I will just say that Lynne is by far the most influential money mentor I've had in my life. Lynne has helped me make so much peace with money. As a school teacher from Iowa that used to make $28,000 a year to running a global multi-million-dollar training company for women, I would not be here, Lynne, if it weren't for you helping me understand that I can receive money and I can be good and I can be pure and I can be philanthropic. And just thank you for the work that you do in the world.
Thank you, Sage. That's a beautiful, wow, what a testimonial. Thank you so much. And I'm really grateful to have made a contribution to you, but I know it's really who you are that just blossoms in whatever situation and circumstances you are given. So thank you for that beautiful acknowledgement. Yeah.
And I want to put a stake in the ground for all the women who are watching, the women like every single one of you who are starting a business to change the world. That's why you're starting a business. And you're stepping into a place of deep commitment. And Lynne knows, and I know that along that path, our commitment will be tested. And that is why I believe I am so excited to read Lynne's brand new book, Living a Committed Life. And Lynne, I just want to talk to you about how it's been for you to continue to commit. I mean, you got pulled away from your life's work, which was ending world hunger, and recommitted to helping to protect the rainforests. And that wasn't necessarily easy for you. Yeah, just like take us into that world in that moment in your life where everything you thought you knew was getting turned upside down, because I know that's happening for many women on the planet right now.
Yeah, well, thank you for that question. And also just want to acknowledge the power of women at this special time in history. I will just say it's not the answer to your question, but I just want to say that I really believe we are in what I call the Sophia century. The century, the 100-year cycle when women will take our rightful role in co-equal partnership with men and the world will come into balance. And we're in the first century of the third millennium. I like to think of it that way because as we do this interview, we're 22 years in, almost 23 years into the next 1,000 years, actually, the third millennium. And this century, this first century, the third millennium, will determine a lot of the trajectory of where humanity goes. And I like to think in big, long terms like that, because that enhances my capacity to understand transitions like the one you're asking me about. So I was very dedicated to ending world hunger through the Hunger Project and became completely, totally, it was not just a job, it was my life, the life of my family, life of my husband and my 3 children, and everybody I knew that I could conscript and get involved. And I thought I'd do it for the rest of my life, but then I received a whole series of mystical messages, and there's a long story there, but from indigenous people of the Amazon, a particular tribe called the Achuar. And they were calling for first contact First contact is a very rare and remarkable privilege. If you ever have heard of that, it's an amazing thing to be in first contact with people that have stayed completely out of the modern world, stayed totally intact in their traditions, totally intact in their ancient wisdom, and have somehow avoided and actually protected themselves from the massive industrialized economic system of extraction and exploitation that has taken the rainforest from where it was to in some places just completely decimated. And the Achuar were able to defend their rainforest without even almost any contact with the outside world, and keep it pristine and roadless and untouched 27 years ago when they contacted us. And ever since then, we've been their allies in keeping it that way, along with now 30 indigenous nations. That was the first. We're now working with 30 indigenous nations, 30 countries really, that straddle southern Ecuador and northern Peru in what's called the Pachamama Alliance. And that commitment overtook my life. And I began to see that it was just really the next chapter of an unfolding commitment to be of service with my life's work. So I feel very grateful that the world, that I was awake enough, I'll say, to hear the call, to respond to it, and to make that transition.
You know, Lynn, going down to Ecuador with you now a couple times has been some of the most life-changing moments of my journey. And, getting a chance to partner with the Jungle Mamas and Pachamama Alliance has changed my world. And to hear how the dream contacted you, the Achuar people, the indigenous people of Ecuador, are the dreamers of the planet. And they are one of the cultures left on the planet that actually really fully utilizes their dreams to guide their daily actions. And Lynn was literally spiritually guided to Ecuador in the middle of her work with the Hunger Project. And that was such a spiritual experience. And if you haven't read about that transition in the book, The Soul of Money, if you haven't read The Soul of Money, you got to read The Soul of Money. And then you got to get Lynn's new book. And then you've got to do everything that Lynn ever offers and sign up for her courses. Because, if you have stuff around money, which I know many of you do, and I say that with total love, we have to make peace with money. But Lynn, would you be willing to speak to what that commitment is to answer a spiritual calling, even when it goes against everything you thought you were on track to do?
Well, I'll say that the spiritual calling that I received was so clean and clear, I couldn't ultimately deny it. I did in the beginning because it was strange. It came through a series of visions I had in Guatemala in a shamanic ceremony with no medicine. My first shamanic ceremony in 1994. And I wasn't working in that part of the world. I was doing a favor for a friend, and my world was raising money in the countries that have more money than others, like Japan, France, Germany. Traveling the world, raising money for ending world hunger. And then my work was in sub-Saharan Africa, India, and Bangladesh. So I wasn't even thinking about South America. But when the visions came from the Achuar people, first I tried to make them go away because it was too weird and I didn't know what to do with it. But then I realized, after the call kept coming in vision after vision after vision, that something was calling me for another chapter of my life. And it didn't actually go against what I was doing in the end. At first, it seemed like completely, jarring, because my commitment was sub-Saharan Africa, India, Bangladesh, countries that are really suffering from hunger and starvation. South America is not and was not. But gosh, there's so many parts of the story. But one of the things that happened that I don't know if I've even told you, Sage, I was still working for the Hunger Project. I was having the visions of the Achuar, not knowing what to do with them. But John Perkins, my colleague, was telling me, we need to go. They're asking for first contact. This is a huge privilege. We've got to organize a group and go down to the Ecuadorian Amazon and have the first encounter with the Achuar. So he was pressing me. And I was saying, no, you do that. I'm ending world hunger. And I was in Ghana, which is a country in West Africa. I was sitting on a desert area with some elders, some Ghanaian elders, some men that were probably in their 70s or 80s at the time. And they were sharing with me, and here we are with this desert with not even a blade of grass, a couple trees, but mostly no vegetation. We're sitting on the ground having a conclave. And they said to me, you know, we grew up in a rainforest. Where we are right now was a rainforest. We grew up in one. It's been gone for 40 years, but we're children in the rainforest. And I didn't know that. I've been working at that time in Africa for 25 years, yet somehow I didn't know that where I was working, particularly in Ghana, had been a rainforest. It was completely gone and had turned to desert. And it made me realize that the call to work in the Amazon with Indigenous people was on the other end of the issue of ending world hunger. It was to prevent what had happened in Africa and much of Asia, through colonization, the absolute decimation of the ecosystem from extractive industries, to prevent that from happening in the Amazon. Otherwise, the Amazon would be gone and would become a desert as well. And it would be on the preventive end on a massive hunger and starvation. So I put it together in a way that I could leave the Hunger Project, which I thought was my life's work and was and still is in many ways, and shift to being in the Amazon to prevent the desecration of the forest system, the river system, the heart of the world, the hydrological heart of humanity's ecosystem, the lungs of the planet. And that made then sense to me. So instead of being against or fighting with it, I surrendered to it. And what I needed was a larger context. That's often what you need when you're making a transition, so that it's not a change, it's a transformation. It makes sense to you. And that's what happened for me. And then I really surrendered myself to the work of the Pachamama Alliance.
I have goosebumps, and there's so many things I want to say. And what I'm struck by is the process of surrender that we all must go through when we get that calling, when we get that tap on the shoulder, that there's almost always like I don't really want to fully look at that. I think most of us have our own version of that. And I want to just really put a stake in the ground that all of you who are listening, who are being called by something bigger, and there's any part of you going, I don't know if I want to do it that way. I don't know if I can become a digital marketer. I don't know if I want to make offers from stage. This is all a part of the calling of the great turning of, light workers and women and conscious, incredible, heartful humans stepping in and saying, oh, we are the leaders now too. And, for me, Women Rocking Business was not what I wanted to do. I just wanted to become a full-time philanthropist, and I realized that if I was going to be on the ground doing volunteer work my entire life, like I had been doing in school teaching, I would never get a chance to bring my gift to get to the front side of the issues in the way that you're getting to the front side of the big issue of, yes, world hunger. Let's actually save the planet so that everybody has enough. And for me, it was the same. It was like, oh, if I can help more women to start really abundant businesses and we can make those businesses philanthropic, we can become the ultimate philanthropists, and we can actually create a lot more good than just spending our time on the ground doing volunteer work. And yes, go do volunteer work, but then yes, start your business and create the abundance that the world needs for us to actually go out and be the light workers we came here to be. And Lynne, I'm continually just in awe of how you think about money and the willingness that you have to stand on stage and just redistribute large amounts of money. I don't think I've ever seen you get on stage and not raise 2 or 3 times more than you even intended, sometimes millions of dollars to reallocate to the places where the world needs it. And can you speak a little bit for the women who are here listening going, yeah, I'm torn between philanthropy and business. Can you speak to that intersection so that we can continue to make peace with that which we are being called to do?
Well, I can. I really feel that the divine feminine is the way through for all the issues we face right now. You can really feel it coming through you if you listen. And it's not just for you, it's for the world. It's for you to be understand that in many ways, anyone born at this time in history, in my view, has a role to play. Not a big role or a small role, necessarily your role. And when you feel what your role is, then you play that big. And allow the divine feminine energy that's coming through all of us. It's coming through men too, but particularly women, because I think we're being reborn. I really think that the pandemic is like, for those of you who've had a baby, if you remember morning sickness, before you knew you were pregnant, you thought you were sick. You thought there was something wrong. You were throwing up in the morning, you were eating weird stuff, you had to rest a lot more, and you thought you were ill until you went to the doctor and he or she told you, you're going to have a baby. And then suddenly, morning sickness was a gift. Morning sickness was exciting. And you could say, I say sometimes that it's really just a metaphor, but the morning sickness of our culture right now is the pandemic, mourning, because we're mourning for all that we've lost through the pandemic in terms of people who died and loved ones and businesses that went bust, but also mourning sickness in the same way. When you're pregnant, you realize this is a sign that I'm giving birth, that I'm going to go through a very, very challenging physical transformation and a transformation in who I understand myself to be. I'm going to become a mother. And that's what I think is happening on planet. I think we're having an evolutionary rebirth. And I think it's coming primarily, as all babies do, through the feminine, through women. But it does require men, so they get to be involved too, to make babies. But I think this is not just one baby. This is a rebirth, a reset, a reimagining, a revitalization, a renewing, a resourcing of what it means to be human. And pregnancy is not easy. It's going to be hard. It's probably going to be long. And then birth hurts. It hurts. So there's going to be pain. There already is. At the same time, if we know that the pain, like, I remember when I was having my kids, I realized the more it hurts, the closer I am to having a baby. And that context gives you the capacity to be in this beautiful space that I'm going to quote Michael Beckwith and Reverend Deborah Johnson, two mentors of mine. Pain pushes until vision pulls. Pain pushes until vision pulls. So really why I wrote this book, Living a Committed Life, is for us to really jump into the times we're living in, not fear them, not withdraw from them, not retract, but go forward and know that the subtitle of the book is Finding Freedom and Fulfillment in a Purpose Larger than yourself, larger than your own life starring you. Because if you have a big commitment, a commitment that turns you on, that makes your heart sing, it reaches back into your life and shapes you into who you need to be to fulfill that commitment, which is what you teach, Sage, for entrepreneurs. When they make a big commitment to a target, a revenue target, a target to serve with their company, then that commitment shapes you into who you need to be to fulfill it, rather than you have to be that person before you make the commitment. It's the other way around. The commitment serves to shape you, to pull you into a vision that makes you the person you want to be. And I think that's exactly what you teach, and that's why I wrote this book.
Oh my gosh, so many thoughts and feelings hitting at once. The birthing analogy for birthing your mission is by far the best I've ever found. And the way that you just described that just brought in so many important distinctions that we can't turn away from that which is unfolding for us because we think, I don't want to do it like that, or I'm an imposter, or I don't know if this is lining up with my flow and my intuition. There's something bigger there. And there's a way of turning toward pain that you're speaking to, Lynn, that there's so much freedom in that. right? Because it's not always going to be easy and it's not always going to be convenient. And when the entourage of to-do list hits and, my personal life, there's, big roaring dragons up in my personal life. And yet, I'm being asked to show up as a leader. I have moments of being like, no, I say no. I don't want to do this anymore. There's too much. It's too much. I've stretched enough. And yet we have to stretch beyond what we think is available to get the baby out, and I wonder if Lynne ever feels this way. I wonder if Oprah ever feels this way. And the answer is always, I know they do. And they keep burning through it. And so I will be that woman too. I would rather be her than the alternative. Who do I want to be at the end looking back? Do I want to be proud of showing up no matter what? Right. And so can you speak a little bit more to the committed life and why you wrote this book and give us a nugget from the book so that we're all completely compelled to go out and buy 10 copies or 100 copies for everyone we know?
Yes. Oh, good idea. I love that. Well, let's see. First of all, let me just say that it's important, I think, for women to realize that it took 120 years of activism to get the vote, for us to be able to vote. It wasn't just one generation. It was generation after generation after generation of women who had that vision, held to it, turned their life over to it until it happened. So we're all in a very, very long continuum. We're standing on the shoulders of women who did that. And we are the ancestors of an age to come. We are opening the aperture for women by the way we live. And legacy is how you live, not what you leave. It's how you live. And the world is calling for women, particularly women, to step up and out and into a destiny that might be scary. It might be challenging. It might be way over your head. But that's how we grow. That's how we serve. And if you have a commitment larger than your own life that you don't need to ever take credit for, you don't need credit for it. What you want is to participate in the great transformation and make the contribution that's yours to make. That's really what is calling all of us. And it's scary. Yeah, but why not? So I can just, I'll talk about Narcisa, since you know her, Sage. Narcisa Macienza, who was a Shuar woman who married an Achuar man in the rainforest. And the Achuar men are very, very warrior-like. And women are have very much been in the background in that culture for generation after, probably 1,000 years, longer than we can even imagine. And yet when the Achuar made contact, they began to see women like myself, women like you, Sage, and the people that you've brought, behaving in ways that was different than women being way in the background just supporting their man. And it opened up the possibility for what we call jungle mamas, or Ikiyama Nukuri, which means women are the key defenders of the forest. And Narcisa, she was 19 years old when she first got involved with the Achuar men. She's Shuar, which is another tribe where they don't really honor women either. And she began to experience people like you, Sage, and the other entrepreneur women that we have brought to the forest. And it began to be something was possible that she didn't even know existed, which is women being in co-equal partnership with men that serve both the desires and the commitments of the women and the strength, but also served the men and created a completely third thing, which is a powerful new culture. And I tell the story of Narcisa in the book because she's such an extraordinary example of being in the background. The women, even the way they talk would be very soft like this, and you couldn't, in another language, so you didn't even understand them. But the tone of voice was, oh, I'm behind. I'm not worthy. Don't count on me for much of anything except feeding the children and having another baby, which is a beautiful thing to do. But that was the limit of what women could do. And now The Achuar leadership includes women. Now women are marching in the streets demanding their rights. Now women have a voice, and they're like the doctors in the communities with the Jungle Mamas program. Sage and the entrepreneurs that are listening, many of you have contributed to this. So I wanted you to know that's an example. That's one of the stories in the book. So I have hundreds of stories in the book of people like you, Van Jones, extraordinary men and women who've taken whatever they were given this lifetime and contributed it in a way that it shaped them into extraordinary human beings, from an ordinary human being to an extraordinary human being. And that's what commitment actually does do. And that's what you teach. So I invite everybody to read this book and to buy it and to know that it's about you. And it has all the distinctions that come from living a committed life that empower you to be the most effective and powerful human being or woman you could possibly be.
We need these stories. We need them. We need them for when it gets hard. We need them for when we want to quit and throw our computer out the window. We need them for when it seems insurmountable. I need them. I've been there so many times, and my clients come to me and they tell me, Sage, I am there. I just had an incredible client come to me yesterday. I've stretched enough. I feel like I need to be done, right? And these are the stories I pull from, the stories of humans that have fought for 120 years. That's multiple generations of women passing down the torch so that we have equal vote. And so I say to every single one of you, keep standing for that thing that you know you're meant to do. And Lynne, thank you for being an example that I turn to when I want to quit.
You know, I always like to think of Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton. One of them had no children. The other one had 8 kids. Just think about that. And they were either in jail or raising money or marching to get the women's vote. And if they can do that, we can, and they were totally in overwhelm. Overwhelm is like where they lived, you know, kind of drowning in to-dos and tasks and commitments. But because their vision was way greater than their own life, they were able to power through. And we all do that. We know that's who we are. Women, if you think about the pandemic, if you think about the people in Ukraine, if you think about the women and children that are desperately crossing the border right now, when you think about the people that are fighting the hurricanes that are taking place in Florida right now and reconstructing, a lot of it is falling on women. They don't get to take a break. So we have that in us. It's how we are, it's in our DNA. It's in the way we live, the way we're built. Yes, overwhelm is, you know, it's painful, but we get through it every time. And if you look back, you'll see that every breakdown you ever had, even the most serious ones, whether it's divorce or bankruptcy or the loss of an important person on your team, every breakdown has in it the seeds of a breakthrough that's bigger than the breakdown. If you can watch for them, if you can look for them, if you can water them, if you can know they're there, you can get through any breakdown. And that's one of the things I talk about in the book.
Thank you so much for writing this book for us. Women need this book right now. I need this book right now. We are being asked big things. And we're being asked to juggle a lot of things. And we're being asked to turn toward technology rather than away. And we're being asked to commit and then commit some more. And we need this book. So thank you for writing it for us, Lynne Twist.
My pleasure.
Thank you for writing this book for us. I can't wait to get my hands on it. I want to invite every single one of you to click the link, buy the book, buy 5, buy 10, give these books out to those you know who are making a difference, who are living a committed life again and again and again. And Lynne, just thank you for being who you are and for pushing through.
Thank you so much. And thank you, Sage, for your example, for your living a committed life, for creating environments and ecosystems for women to step into their greatness. And thank you for being my friend. And thank you for promoting my book. And I'll just want to say briefly that there's a special offer through Porchlight Books. And if you order through Porchlight, you get a free downloaded chapter. You get discounted, I think it is distribution, or when they get it, how they get it to you. I can't remember what that's called. And then I've signed 1,000 books through Porchlight, so they'll be signed. So that's one way to order it, but you can do bulk orders through
Great.
too, but you can order it anywhere, and it comes out on November 29th now. It's coming, but you can pre-order it now. So just that's a little bit of information.
We will see if my team can put the link to Porchlight in the comments here of this video. And thank you, every single one of you, for your commitment. Thank you for answering the call. Thank you for being a woman who knows that your gift, your piece of the puzzle, is part of the overall constellation of solution that the world needs to continue to turn this thing around and to contribute to the great turning in all of the ways that the incredible Lynne Twist is speaking to today. Lynne, it's such an honor to get to be with you every time. And go grab the book, sisters. You will not regret it.
Thank you, Sage. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Keep shining your light. Don't forget to hit subscribe so I can keep getting you weekly content to grow your business that is relevant, authentic, and effective, so you can get out there and shine your light and be the messenger that you're here to be, because your clients are waiting for you.